live?
That's insane.
Yeah. Who do you guys distribute this?
There you go. That's what you are.
Really?
Yes, don't worry about it.
You sure?
Positive.
You do personal as well? I'll have to get over that.
And actually, that dollar I think goes to Joey anyway, so.
Over a year, I really need to again.
Actually, it's just 50 cents. That's all.
100%.
No, I do like the gesture. I do like all kinds of
What's that?
steroids.
Yeah, these two guys do HGH
Well, you guys are,
Literally, like, it's
or
pretty much.
HCG and
Well, natural, not till June, because we Board of Pharmacy just made it where we have to have a specific room for naturals also.
you are live.
Okay, ready to roll? Call this Finance and Legislation meeting to order. Mr. Bayes?
I'm here.
Mr. Ballack? Here. Okay, we got one piece on tonight. I think we all should probably go over it. And it is, I'm going to read it, and then we can discuss it. An ordinance of the City of an ordinance of the Council of the City of Struthers, Ohio, amending ordinance number 20-023, entitled an ordinance amending the ordinance number .08-016, entitled ordinance regulating the use of public and private sewer and drains, the installation of connection of building sewers, and the discharge of water waste into the public sewer and waste treatment systems, providing penalty for violation thereof. So, Kat is not here for this. I assume both of you guys are here on her behalf, or
Yes.
no? Okay. So this is basically about the aforementioned increases?
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Based off of the presentation that was given. at the
And
last
did
meeting by
anybody-
QPD.
Did anybody go over those packets, and what did they think? I mean, we all heard the gentleman's presentation. What does everybody think? I have to say, it's unpopular, but it's inevitable that we are going to need more revenue. I'm not saying we need to per se go with what was proposed to us, but we do have a revenue issue. Agreed?
Oh, yeah.
When I went back and I read through that, or went through that meeting again, here's my solution. It was said many times in that meeting, it's an enterprise fund, it's a business, it's not part of the city, right? In business, when your costs go up, when things break, all of your overhead needs to be taken care of by your customers, right? By the revenue you bring in. We own that plant. That's the people of this city's plant, Struthers plant. Why are we going to increase the rates on the people of Struthers? Why are we not going to increase the rates on the surrounding people who use that plant? It's our asset.
I thought the reason
No, they said it would be unpopular.
it would be unpopular with the county, they may want to diminish their percentage of their.
But we also reach out to Boardman and Poland, both pay sewer rates here. Correct?
No,
Poland does.
no,
Through the
they pay the
county.
county. And their rate is $9,
Correct.
$9.
Correct, but-
Ours is $4.
Right, but in taking...
We're asking it to be $4.
Sure, and I understand that, but in my opinion, when you own a business, we don't want that's our asset. It's the people of this city of Struthers, that's their asset. They shouldn't have to pay more because things cost more. The outside should have to pay more.
The thing is, the county does pay us
A subsidy,
for that use.
correct.
And
And you're saying tampering with the county's rate?
you might not get more, you might get less.
Less. But the county, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right. So Poland, we take on Poland's flow, we take on
Right.
Boardman's flow, we take on all these, but we take them on not through them, through the county.
For the county. And so they pay the county, then the county moves that fund to us. Because they pay a percentage of our operating costs.
Okay, but they actually don't pay us, they take on our operating costs, correct?
Right.
Correct, okay. My point was going to be to not make Struthers raise Struthers rates, because it's their asset. They own that. So mine was to push it obviously out to surrounding communities, which looks like it may be more of an issue than a help. And also, I would say in that presentation, they really didn't have a way to determine it. whether the 64% was better or it was gonna be worse. So they didn't. I specifically asked that. So I guess that was my thing I was thinking for the last few weeks was, since that meeting, nobody brought up the fact, including them, that this is our asset. We own that. We should make money on it, right? All right, so I gotta cut grass this year. When I go to cut my house, just because costs have went up, I don't then start writing a check to my business for cutting my own grass. Everybody else's costs went up. Mine is still covered. I mean, that's business. You own the asset. You should reap the reward of owning that asset. Why the hell do you own it? It's not making you money.
Plus they wanna raise the fixed fee.
Correct.
Yeah, and I don't do it. That'd be a hard pill to swallow, maybe both.
So, I mean, I get it that we need to draw in more revenue. I guess, I think putting it solely on the back of our constituents.
Can I just say
Go ahead.
one thing? I totally understand what you're saying, and going into the process, I had the same exact feeling. You know, I said, I don't want to raise 1 penny on any citizen, you know, of ours until we have evaluated this here. Through the process, though, it was made painfully aware. I was painfully made aware that the citizens, if you remove the county, what we're paying is not even close to covering the treatment of just the citizens, 1. And 2, when you raise the rate fairly and we get more revenue from those citizens, we're gonna spend more money and in turn get more money from that customer of the county because they're paying us based on our expenses. So the more we're able to expend to do needed repairs, upkeep, and much needed wages and all that stuff, we will get more.
I get what you're saying, but we don't know that we'll get more back, and here's why.
I do know we'll get.
Explain to me.
It's based on spending.
I understand, but how
I
do you run
spend
a
100
business based on spending?
Let's just-
Your business is based on revenue you brought in. If you're gonna pay a gas bill on my equipment, that certainly doesn't mean that my business
So
is gonna
here's
be
what
profitable. You're only covering my
Here's what they were
expense.
telling you. If we go back to the drawing board and completely scrap the deal or contract that we have with the county and we say we're gonna start over and we're gonna figure out another way to do this, we may come up with a scenario where we're gonna have to increase prices way more than we thought we were.
We could wind up with the $9 that
Yes.
the county is paying.
So, I mean, if that need, you know, if council
Well, I
wants
don't-
to investigate that, that's
First-
okay. I don't know how you would do that, but
First of all, I'd like to say that some of them things on that list, we do not need. Just like a brand new dump truck down there.
what things
At the
on?
80,000 for that dump truck.
No, I'm talking about on the sewage list.
Yeah, that's what's on there.
It's a 5-ton dump truck.
It's a 5-ton
But
dump truck.
if I'm
They
not
have
mistaken,
one-
the way that I interpret that is over the next so many years things we're going
So in the
to.
next
Right.
So we're
20 years,
anticipating expense.
We have
about a
now.
20-year
So he
plan.
was,
So
he was
that
planning
is- That isn't right now,
Replacement
that is
cost.
projection where you're gonna have.
Over the years.
Yes,
Yes.
But
so
none
that
of us
may
will
come
be
10
here
years from
when-
now.
Right.
No,
That,
Yeah.
Yes.
it says it right on there
It
nowadays
does.
that they're gonna do it.
No, but it's, you're wanting to collect the money now.
It's a
So when it
projection.
becomes time to replace it, you have that.
It's a run, it
And
is,
you don't
it's,
have to take
it's
a
a
loan out to
projection,
do it.
so it's not, we're not buying the truck right now. But that's a projection over the next 20 years of things we're gonna need, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that, I get that, but that isn't right now.
See, I didn't bring mine with me.
And I can't argue that point because the guy knows what he needs. I don't know what he needs.
I understand.
Right.
So if you had more questions, maybe you wanna have a meeting with.
No, I mean, Guy was pretty adamant
That's
on,
a vacuum.
when he was
No,
here,
it isn't. That's the
on
dump
truck.
what needed to be done. I mean, that's a fact.
80,000. They
Yeah.
want that in
They're-
2022.
So they wanna collect the money for it now.
Well, they're saying the remaining useful life is estimated 1 year of the 5-ton dump.
Okay.
Same with the Vector truck.
The
I can
Vector,
see the Vector.
the Vector truck, from what I've heard, we need that.
Right.
And we're trying to get a grant for that, to cover part of that cost also, so.
But
So some of those costs won't be absorbed into there, hopefully, but you can't depend on that, I understand. But we're also raising rates right now based on that, which is,
Didn't we just get them a digester cover?
Yes.
I thought we got the digesters cleaned out, correct?
I thought we could have a new cover
And-
put on as well.
I'll tell you another thing on there that I wrote. Main pumping station pump replacements.
I understand
They-
about that though.
Okay, I understand that too, but they rebuild them down there.
Yeah, but I talked
He
to
told us,
I
Guy,
talked to Guy about that. He says it's harder and harder to get the replacement parts for those pumps. And I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I'll just be truthful. I didn't dissect that whole list. Those guys know what they need.
I remember telling us that when we did that tour down there.
You know what I mean? They know what they need.
Right.
I'm more on what's
Obviously,
the best way to do this, what's the least impact on the people of the city, and how do we go about doing this? But in my head,
well, this
when
is-
we realize that it's an enterprise, not part of the city, this is a complete enterprise business,
They're
my mind
estimating-
obviously goes to the
But we're gonna
business
pay
side of
for it
it
now.
and trying to push that cost off onto someone else.
We're not paying for it now.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of banking the money to have the money to be able to pay for it and
Then.
cover all the
Yeah,
And what they're saying,
operating expenses.
basically, the gray area is pretty new stuff
yeah.
that we have.
Well, I think the rest of it is, again, a projection of what we're gonna need,
Yeah.
anticipating the next 20 years. So we're just trying to make sure, they're trying to make sure that the money is there when we need it.
and another thing I asked, and it's on tape, that I asked about grants, okay? What did Lowville just get?
I'm actually looking that up right now.
It's
I have it on.
550,000, right?
Yeah. From Tim Ryan.
We got a grant for something. I think it was like 100,000.
Yeah,
For
you're-
what?
We did just get a grant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was
550,000.
100,000.
550,000 they got for their wastewater plant down there.
Okay.
Every plant is different though, you can't take,
Yeah.
just because you apply for a grant, they're graded on a scale, and then you are awarded a grant based on need and everything else. So just because they got a grant doesn't mean that we're entitled to the same grant.
And you have to look at
Okay.
it this
But
way too.
was he asked, because he was down here at City Hall?
I don't understand
Tim
Ryan,
why we're.
Tim Ryan.
Yes, we've asked him for a lot of money.
I would say this too. A lot of times when they come in and they say, "Why would we give you money when you're not even taking care of your own stuff? You got the lowest rates in town, and you're not." Do you know what?
I understand what you're saying.
Just like they wouldn't come into a neighborhood like there's a point where like this is too bad. We're not going to throw any money at it.
Yeah, you're not
Or-
gonna throw good money after bad. I mean, it's,
And the good point is, if we're not charging enough to cover some of our basic expenses, they don't see it as a grant to help you. They see it as, you're just.
you're taking this to cover your
Yeah,
operating
You're
expenses.
underwater.
Yeah.
It sounds like council could use another meeting possibly
We
with
just, I mean, I'm just being honest, I'm
the
having
people who did the
difficulty
study
with this.
and the plant manager and ask more questions. I mean, we certainly want everybody to be, no one's gonna be comfortable but with the hike, but we certainly want you to be comfortable with your decision, so
Yeah.
I'd say have another meeting.
You know,
I would honestly like that as well.
and I guess it would, you know, like, say we did get a grant for $500,000 or from the state or wherever, how far would that go in terms of offsetting the kind of rate increase that we're looking at? You
Yeah,
know?
because then maybe we wouldn't have to.
It would probably be a temporary offset,
I would agree with
because our upgrades and everything else
And even this
happen continuously.
But I would say your cost isn't fixed, it's continuous,
constant.
it's constant.
Right.
So digesters go bad, they're only good for so many years as projected and everything else. So you get a grant and you replace them all, they're still only gonna be good for so many years. Then you'll
Right.
be right back into the same
That's right,
situation.
you're right.
But maybe we wouldn't have to hike it so much. That's
And
Well-
how possibly, that'd be like me at home being like, you know what, I'm gonna buy twice the house I could afford because I'm thinking someone's gonna just give me something. Like I can't,
No,
we can't,
I understand what you're saying.
That would be great. That's not
The-
a way, that's not a business plan to
For sure,
plan
but
with.
the problem, it seems like at this point, is we've gotten so far behind.
We have.
Correct?
Correct.
So if, like,
Because of
something
the
like,
lack of,
sure.
we should have been raising it, say, 10 cents every 2 years over a course of 20 years.
Right.
Instead, we haven't. We've been stagnant until last year.
Now we're
where
gonna
we
raise it
raised
$2.
Two
Yeah,
Struthers.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah,
But-
and at the end of the day, I mean, it's like 500,000 sounds like a lot of money, but in the big scheme of things,
No. Yeah,
how much is it really going to make?
But again,
make a difference in
that's-
terms of what we have to raise the rates.
That 500 is gonna be a Band-Aid, it's just gonna be
Right.
time.
Right.
It's gonna kick us out a
And we
little
are
bit.
still extremely low,
Right.
even with that height.
Even with
I
a
just thought-
$4.50 rate, our rate are way below the average for the state and
Yeah.
similar cities.
But we also should be below because we own the plant. I think that that's kind of getting lost a little bit
Yeah, I'll
too.
talk to you
So,
more about
But
that.
even if we got 500,000, it would cover 2 items, the Vector truck and the dump truck.
and then,
And then the
yeah,
next big ticket item would be the main pumping station.
And let's not forget too, then you need a new one in 5 more years, because
Sure.
that's the
And-
life of them.
And I want to tell you something else. Every day we have a big storm, we go into violation for the EPA. So at some point, we have to address those also. We can't just continually go into EPA violations. Guy has to write them up. Every time there's a big storm and we have an overflow where the main station gets over.
because we can't take on the flow.
We can't take on the flow. So at some point, you have to address that also.
And
But
I
is it,
I would
is
say
it-
Which would be
this,
what, retention?
Retention, a lot of it's stormwater seeping into, I mean,
it's
Is that
not
what is
nice.
the
Yeah,
overflow?
yes.
but there's
Is
a
the
lot of
overflow
different
just
things.
That's
from us, or
I&I,
is it from the surrounding communities coming into our station as well?
Both. It's from
Because
both. And the
now-
county is doing a lot of work right now on reducing their flow.
Yeah, aren't they building a substation that's
Yes.
gonna take over?
So
Board?
we're hoping that helps us in a couple of years, so that their flow will decrease.
There's
And
two,
that's another thing you have to think about. If they decrease their flow, they might be coming to you saying, hey, we're going to decrease our costs because we're not giving you as much. But the plant still has to operate no matter what. I mean,
and
you
there's
use a little bit less
there's
chemicals,
two things
but
there
Yeah.
too, Bob. If the EPA, they don't care if it's our fault or the county's. They say it's your plant, it's your responsibility.
Right.
So it could be, this isn't the case, but it could be 100% the other
County.
communities, but the fact is, we are the ones that are on the hook for it, one. And if we don't do the things we need to do to have the upkeep of our plant, the EPA can come in and set the rates. And then you have no say in it.
Yeah, I'm
And we
sure-
don't want that
No,
to
that's
happen.
definitely not,
And
but,
that's the same with the water rates, that we
But
have
that's
our
what-
own little negotiation here. If they went to the EPA, it would be way, way higher than what we're paying.
yeah. Right, you're right. But we do have low rates, and I just feel like we need to protect those as much as
Oh,
we
sure.
can. You know, just being
Well, you know,
honest.
it's gonna be $2.68 hike the first year, this year.
Yeah, and that is on,
The debt service and the increase of the usage fees.
but the
So-
usage fees, that's only based on so many gallons
Right, it's going up $1.18
per gallon, or per 700,
per 100 cubic foot.
100 cubic feet. I thought they said that's 700 gallons?
Mm-mm, it's
The
more than that.
average,
I forget.
they said the current price, monthly average payment at that rate is
I
$25.
think the
It
average
would go up to
sewer bill
31.
is going to be $30.
$31.91.
31,
recall.
okay, $31.
So they said it's gonna cost our
So-
average person over $100 a
The
month,
average.
or over $100 a year.
No, $82. $82.91.
With the increase.
But then the usage fee as well will go up,
No,
correct?
No,
this
that's
is,
all,
That's what that
all
was.
everything.
company.
Okay. So the first year, it will be about an
Right.
$80 increase, based on your consumption, an average.
based on their averages here, it'd be
And
$82.91.
obviously, a family of 2 isn't going to use as much as a family of 7.
But then in '24, it's gonna go up to $413. And then in '26, it's gonna go up to $444. And that's just the average.
Right.
Of course, some could be lower.
I use double, sure I use double that consumption, you know what I mean?
What, you said in 2026 it was gonna go up, how much?
2026, it'll be, right now, we're paying $300 a
Right.
year. in 2026, it'll be 444
Okay, so an increase of $144.
on an average usage.
Right, okay.
And that's including the debt service and the stormwater.
This keeps going back, we're gonna have to make sure we have an
That's per
ordinance
person.
on outhouses.
Per household,
New
right.
popular thing.
But so for instance, like we raise these rates and that's fine, but then John's list grows of people who don't pay their bills because nobody gets in trouble for not paying a sewer bill. So what do
Well,
we do about that?
we just had a meeting and we are putting processes in place to, try to curb and get a handle on that.
So
Yes,
under our
was that
current
yesterday?
agreement, I have to ask, under our current agreement, Aqua Ohio collects the billing for us.
We
Aqua
pay them
Ohio
to do our
We
billing.
pay them to do our billing.
bills, collects, and remits to us, yes.
And contractually, they have no obligation, John, I'm sure you would know this, contractually, they have no obligation to shut off water based off of sewage.
Right,
They couldn't if we
told
wanted
us
to.
that. They told us that.
They can't.
They can't.
They
No.
cannot,
Yeah.
they
By law.
will not, and they
Yeah,
cannot.
they addressed that last time we had a meeting.
Right, but
about that.
contractually, you don't know of anything that would obligate them to do that under certain pretenses?
They-
Because I feel like that's done other places. I just don't feel like it's done.
But then again, they could wash their hands of the whole situation, say you take care of your own sewage.
Sure.
And then we'd have to create a department to do all that billing.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then we'd
just
have to
saying.
raise the prices just
And we
to do
still
that.
wouldn't be able to shut their water.
Right, yes, yes. I just didn't know if there was a method that they had where above so much money, they had some type of obligation along the line to help us out.
Not
They,
that I'm aware of.
they're simply a third-party billing
I-
agent.
Yeah, yeah.
That,
Okay. I mean, again, I'm just exploring every avenue.
What's the rate, is it over $400 then they get sent to the, it used to be the attorneys for the sewage? If it was over $400, then they were sent to them for collection?
Yeah, I don't know what the amount was when it was being sent to Millstone and Kennison. As Chrissy said, we had a meeting, and I think one of the things we're going to explore is, once they get delinquent after 90 days, then I start to get involved by sending a letter. These are just ideas that we've been throwing around. Send a letter that says, your account is delinquent. If you don't resolve it, we're gonna assess it to the real estate taxes. And then it can get paid as part of the real estate tax.
And that basically goes, because a lot of the renters were not paying it, and the owners of the property would get that letter and say, what's going on
You
here?
have to explain to me how that works. So we put a lien on the real estate taxes, or we add it to the tax so the money goes to the county.
Correct.
So we add it to the tax. We add it to the tax, money goes to the county.
No,
no.
it comes to us.
No, it comes,
so
they
we-
collect it.
It's basically like a lien.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Okay.
misunderstood.
Currently, we do that for nuisance abatement,
Yeah.
grass cutting, trash removal, some demolition.
Do we pay the county a fee for collecting for us? Is there
No,
just
The
so,
county auditor?
We
Yeah.
just send them a list every six months of what we want to assess, and I think there is legislation bill required, because they usually want a legislation number that,
I think what we have on the
authorizing us to
books
assess it.
in our codified, I
There
looked
might be
at
one.
before, I think it actually it suffices. But we may want to pass a standalone ordinance, one, just because it would be easy and it's simple, but two, to kind of get the word out there of what we're doing, and for Joey to use as he's dealing with landlords and people, just, oh, by the way, too, there's this.
yeah.
Just to make it, people more aware of how important and that we're not just, people think they're just not gonna do anything, why would I
Sure.
pay it?
Right.
Like
Well,
it be known that we're gonna actively be collecting.
do you have any idea of the total of past delinquents in terms of what a total amount would
Say a
be?
dollar amount, you mean?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of what is considered uncollectible debt.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've been on council since, say, the tax office have come and done a discharge of debt. Have you been through one of those?
No.
Okay. So John and I are working on a scenario where we could comb through that old debt and pull out what is uncollectible by law.
What deems it uncollectible by law?
It
Time.
Versus
Time.
deceased.
they're deceased. I think John and I more were looking right now at time. There's a statute of limitation.
Would that be 7 years, John, or what?
That's something I've been looking into. You get 6, and then there's also an Ohio statute of limitation for the collection of debts. It's 15 years.
Depending on what the debt is based on.
Correct, and that's what I'm looking into as far as utilities right now. So I'm looking into that, and I'll have an answer hopefully by next Wednesday. I will have an answer by next Wednesday.
What was the charge that GPD charged us,
I
Chrissy?
haven't got a bill yet, but I wanna say it's about 9,000 and some change.
And that came out of Guy's budget.
It did, and the county will pay for 64.5% of it.
Okay, so it cost us $2,500, $3,000.
Yeah, I think that was worth it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, for us to try and figure something like that out.
We just don't have the capability.
No,
at the time.
no,
We
I
don't
mean-
know the intricacies.
Yep.
But I did agree that I would like to have them back down here for another meeting. And
I would.
Me
I
too,
would-
before
he
we
said
do
that
it.
he ran this in every scenario that he could, and I believe him. But I'd also like to hear the scenarios, or hear what happened when you did it this way. Show me what happened when you did it that way. I would feel better if I did that.
on the board.
That's all. I would. He did say that. He said that we talked about a slight increase every year instead of a big one then every other year, and he said it wouldn't work that way. I believe him, but I would also like to do my job and let's see.
Yeah,
You
what's the
know what I
statute
mean,
on it?
right? So
Kind of like socking money away when you're young, that it builds up faster.
yes,
And that's
You know,
basically what he said.
Yes.
It builds up faster for when we need it.
right. Because when that initial jump is going to already take us from here and put us ahead.
Right.
And then every time you compile on that, you're already, when it would take you so long to get to that point without that initial raise. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
And what compounds it further is when we started the process with them, the economy was at a certain state and
Yeah.
things have changed so fast
Sure.
that I'm curious that if we had them do the same study with known information a month from now,
Would it be different?
what will come out?
Guy says his
Guy
chemicals and
literally
stuff are really.
I'm sure
Is
they're
getting
outrageous.
emails from everybody he deals with, hey, this is going up 40%, this is
Right.
going up 20%,
And it is, everything's going up everywhere, but we always have to try to keep in mind here that for our residents, this is a necessity. This isn't something that they could live without. This is when we say this went up, it's the same as saying your house went up, or anything else because you need it. It's not something that they can just cut out of their budget. So we really do got to do the best we can for them. Obviously, we can't let the plant shut down or be in violation. I'm just saying
Maybe, I don't know, maybe we could hold off on such a large increase with the debt service and do that incrementally coming, because they have three, they want to put it right at 450 and then that's it. So if we do that at 50, 50, and 50, then we would be there.
But you're talking about $1.50 a month. And that's important for loan payments.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
not quite
understand
sure,
that,
it's like that's the least bite getting you your biggest
But
thing,
you
so.
don't
Not
think people
sure.
are gonna argue, hey, we're raising this, plus you're raising this? They're gonna argue.
Oh, and there's another thing to be said that we don't charge a late fee when you're late. You know how Aqua has like, you don't pay your bill, there's a certain percentage attached on there? We don't have anything like that. So anybody who's not paying, there's not even a,
Well, could we do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's not
honestly,
even
then,
that.
That's a good, that's,
You
So
know.
there's no incentive to,
and that's why people
Hey.
don't care about their sewer bill.
Yeah.
If I got a $10 charge
Well,
every month I was late,
No, it's not even the charge. They don't care. They're not gonna care about the charge. Only way they're gonna care is if you can figure out how to turn off their service.
Yes.
Yep.
They don't care about $10. Maybe you make $10 a day.
Sure.
They ain't gonna care. They ain't gonna pay it. They don't care.
curb key.
That is, I'm telling you,
Right.
until we can figure out a way to
That's right.
take this off of people when they don't pay, this will always be an issue.
Well, I suppose if, say we had no increases until 2026, which is when they said this would,
We'd be out of
We-
money.
Replenish should already be on.
I guess the question would be, how much would we have to raise our rates at that point
Yeah.
to get caught up?
Yeah.
So would
You
we
know.
be able to raise
That's a
to
good
the
point.
450 until?
Well, even
Can we do section 1 and then revisit this at the end of 2023 and see where we're at?
Well,
Do you
Jim,
know what I'm saying?
I guess the average rate, if we did nothing, it would be $300 till 2026.
Mhm.
and then it would jump up to $444.
No, it would have to go, it would have to go
No,
more.
because we
Because
wouldn't
it
be
didn't
banking any
compound.
money over.
Yeah, it wouldn't
over
have
time.
compounded over that time, so it would,
So,
You know, so
Yeah.
the
We're
rate
gonna
have to
increase
play
might be,
catch up.
You are correct.
Might
You
be
can-
incredible.
You can pass this and then in 2020,
At the end of 22, yeah.
really,
you could revisit it and see if it's still required or, you know
See where we're
what I'm
at.
saying?
just kick the can down the road.
Well,
I would've just
no,
said
she's
why we're
saying-
here.
she's
No,
saying pass
no,
the
I'm not
initial
disagreeing with
And
you.
then revisit
I
it
really
in
not, I
2
was just,
years.
I'm a fan of
Because,
kick the
you know,
can.
here's
no, I wasn't putting it
my
that, I
thing is,
mean,
Yeah,
we
it's
say,
better
okay,
than
we're gonna
anyway.
raise it to 450.
who knows if
Yeah.
I'll still
And
be here, we
it's
might not even
out
have
of
to
sight,
deal
out
with
of
this,
mind
right?
for 2
Maybe
years,
somebody
so
else is
everybody's
wrong.
gonna not really remember when the rates were raised.
Yeah.
I'll remember every month when I'm in the negative trying to
Gas
make
prices
payroll
went
and it's not a joke, it's happened.
Right?
So this
Look
is
how much
serious,
gas prices
this
went
is
up
a
in a matter of
problem.
weeks.
Oh, I
And
know.
it's a necessity too. Just
Yeah.
like I just said, it's gonna be $6.50 a month, it's gonna be the increase basically.
Agreed, and you know what, the last time I said this, I said like, it ain't gonna matter to any of us, just being realistic.
Yeah.
But there are people out
There are
there
a lot of people.
that are on a fixed income that are older or that truly
Yeah,
This
because
is a
their
tough
fixed
time for all.
incomes don't increase.
didn't increase with
Exactly.
gas, didn't increase with food, didn't increase with inflation.
Yeah.
They're just stuck, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I suppose if I was an employee there and you know, as Chrissy's saying, you know, hey, I can't make payroll, you know, you're gonna have to wait. I mean, you know, that's,
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
you can't
you
get
know,
a raise.
we have to consider,
Can't get a raise for 3 years, even though inflation
Absolutely.
is rampant.
But
Oh
they
my God.
Lying about it.
they also said this increases included payroll and everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they did. I'm saying if we
It takes
didn't pass it.
Takes all expenses
Everything.
into account.
Right.
right,
I'm saying if we didn't pass this and we
Right.
kicked
Oh,
the can, then these guys are stuck at a time when they're saying inflation's 8%, it's really 20%. But these guys are getting no increase, so.
Okay, say this all does pass and then their contracts come up, do we adjust their contracts according to our adjustment here?
I would assume that we would have to wait until we had
Stock or surplus.
a level.
Well, obviously, if our expenses
Cash
for
flow.
operating the plant goes up, then that takes away the money that would be used for their pay increases, so
So
Because
that's taken into account when their pay increases are recommended.
Unfortunately, not knowing what's gonna happen too.
Yeah.
In 5 years, we could be like, sorry guys, you
Oh,
did
no.
all that
Right.
and
No,
we're
no,
still
no, you could do
broke,
that
like,
literally,
If all money went to operating the plant,
Like-
there would be nothing left for their pay
but
increase,
that's
and that's
why I
just-
kind of have a problem with this too, is this is all
It
speculation.
is. But
In
how
a
else
year
would
from,
you do
I
it?
understand, but we could do this raise, and in a year from now, you could come back and say, listen, things have went crazy, you now have to do this raise every year for 5 years until we are paying $9, because that's what it's gonna take to operate the plant and to have
Right.
wastewater here, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that could happen, and that's also why we paid $9,000 to have an engineer do a study for us.
But it could
Because
change
we
in
don't
a
want
year.
to guess at the price, we
Sure.
want to know what the price
And
is.
so do we worry about a small amount now or a huge big
But
amount?
that
That's
price is
what
only
I'm
based on the information that we have currently,
That we-
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that is all.
That's all we can do, I get it, Chrissy, I'm just, you know, I don't like doing this any more than anybody else, you know? And I would love to be able to push the cost
What's
onto
the
somebody else,
difference
cause
between-
I do feel like that's our asset.
What's the difference between M&S consultant?
MS.
Okay,
MS,
MS consultant.
yeah.
What's the difference between what they did, their study?
They didn't do a full study.
And it probably costs 5 times as much.
Yeah, well,
No, it costs about $5,000.
yeah, and it wasn't a full study. They didn't get all the data off of Chrissy and everybody else that they needed. They didn't get the flow rates or anything else. I don't know what they did, honestly.
Why wouldn't Guy give him that? He's the head down
They didn't
there.
ask for it.
They didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
That's what he even said, why did you pay these guys?
Yes.
Because they didn't get the information that they needed to do the study.
So MS, you're saying MS did not ask Guy.
No,
For the appropriate
For-
information.
Right.
correct.
Well, maybe
still
he
get
asked
paid.
for information, but it was different.
It wasn't the information
I don't know
that-
what his process was.
would have been
We
needed.
just know that it wasn't enough.
These guys went a little bit further than MS did.
Right. They
I
did
suppose
more.
there's always that possibility, you know, do you get a second opinion? You know, do you pay for a
Problem is
second
you're gonna pay
opinion?
for a second
Well,
opinion.
that's it, but the county's gonna pay 64% of that, so.
There are other engineering firms out there. We could have it done again. I don't think your results are gonna change a whole lot.
Yeah, they may be worse.
I mean,
they may be better, who knows?
You don't know.
County may decide not to cover that.
Yeah.
Because
I-
they
I would
have
say
a sufficient. one.
That's not a bad idea, but before you do that, I'd have the people come back who actually did
Yeah.
it and explain to
No,
you
I
in more
agree. I think that we
detail,
should have them come back.
you know, how they did it maybe, and
Yeah.
then you would be, are you comfortable with how they did it before you would decide that you needed someone else to do it?
I don't know if everybody else but me, like when they were here talking, I focused on a lot of what they said, but I was still trying to wrap my head around how much we have to raise it and why, that maybe I missed a lot of the information too. So I would like them to come back,
Yeah.
if
Well,
possible.
that night had a lot going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Sure did.
It did.
I'm sure
So-
they would.
Yeah, we need to meet
It's,
just with them.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were very thorough, very professional.
They were.
Absolutely.
When they
And
gave
I
a
think that
presentation
they-
to us, it was a good hour and a half.
They would have no problem coming
Yeah.
back and.
I might not have liked what they were telling me, but they did their job. They did a good job.
And I
mean,
felt-
can't say they did.
You know, we
Yeah.
hired these people to
Oh.
do this for us. They're not trying to sell us anything. They were
They're giving us
providing a
results
service
Yeah.
that
Just
we
giving
asked
us
them
results.
to do for us. So
Things that we don't know.
and
to have
recommendations,
like
right?
animosity towards them was,
Yeah, they have
It's
no,
not
they have no skin in the
warranted.
game.
he doesn't care. They get paid either way. So.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Another night with them.
Yeah, I agree.
That's okay with everybody?
Like I said, that up, right?
We'll schedule it.
Okay, so I think we just leave this live for,
Yeah,
Do we?
just
Yeah.
keep it in
Okay.
committee.
okay.
I have the proposed budget. If you guys want to take one. I know
Are we gonna do a workshop or what do you guys wanna do?
Yeah, we usually do.
Yeah.
I could give you a Reader's Digest version just so
Okay.
you.
Santa's, we
General.
got a Santa's workshop, we gotta do.
Keep
Before
in
we-
mind that I'm
Before we get
speaking.
into this, I want to, do we still have the program for the flood valves that people put in their homes?
Yes, we still
Okay.
have that, but I have to talk to Guy whether, because we only allocated so much money every year.
There's only so many you can get.
Yeah,
right?
so many.
Yeah, because guys,
So this year might be used up, because I know I've signed 3 of them already, so I don't know how many,
you didn't sign one up from Catherine and Mark Stevens, did you?
Maybe.
Because Guy got all the information about that, and he was gonna bring it. Because they gave me a call, Guy told them to call me. The backflow valves, they didn't realize that there was a program, and then they called Guy,
I
he
live next to
inspected it.
Parada.
Yes,
Yes, I did, yes, we took care of that.
I was gonna say, I think I remembered that name.
What do they give? They give a half or $1,500?
Half up to 15.
Half
Yeah.
up to 1,500.
So if you go $4,000, you're not getting half.
You're gonna
Right.
get 1,500 at the
Right.
most. That's-
but I guess Guy was there, he inspected it,
Yeah.
and everything was in.
And if I'm correct, I think they got like $800.
Oh, good, okay.
And I'm not, don't quote me,
Well,
because
she,
my memory with.
well, I just talked to her yesterday, so this
Yeah.
must have just really
Yeah,
happened.
and I think it was just a few days ago
Yeah.
that Guy came to me, and then, so it'd probably take a little while for her to get.
Great. So you think it's about $800 that they're gonna be getting?
I think that, and I have to double check with Guy to make sure we're talking about the same
Yeah,
person.
well, he
But I
took
did-
all the paperwork,
Yeah.
so. he-
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So I guess most of what I'm gonna impart is like I'm speaking for the mayor, obviously, she's gonna be here tonight. In general, I would just say, you know, there's a lot of years that we pretty much know what everything's gonna be and it's real easy to plug in the numbers, and this is gonna be a tough year, and I don't mean like financially it's gonna be a tough year, I mean guessing what the prices of everything are gonna be and how that's going to affect us. One, and this will be the first year that we're having an insurance change in the middle of the year. So, like normally coming in, I already know what the healthcare rates are gonna be because it runs from January to December. Well, when Mayor Stocker left, he had worked out an 18-month plan, and that threw us into a June to July situation.
I remember that.
So honestly, I'm not gonna know the half of the year's healthcare until that happens.
But it was probably good that he did because it bought us 6
I mean,
more
we
months
got
on
some
the old
Good
rates, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
and then as you know, the last rates we got, you know, were a great decrease, you know. But I have no idea to guess what the last 6 months of the healthcare is gonna look like. One, obviously.
Can the new company give you any prospect on
Well,
what
here's
it'll
what
be?
happens. They take a snapshot at a certain point, and no one will even talk to you or give you any information until you hit that point.
Okay.
And I wanna say it's when you're 9 months into your current plan, I have to ask, so maybe about next month, they might be able to start flirting with some companies to get some ideas, but I know it's too early now.
Hey, maybe they went down.
Yeah. So, that's one. Two, we obviously, with inflation, gasoline, I don't have to tell you guys about what's going on in the world.
Sure.
You know, the city's gonna have to absorb a lot of that too.
Yep.
So those are unknowns. So I did my best guess. We may have to revisit this in 3 months.
On a lot of this,
You know,
Chrissy, did you just go off of last year and add a percentage increase?
For
Oh, okay.
Like
for the
fuel?
mundane thing, yes. So if there's not a project or equipment being bought that I didn't know, and it's just like, you know, Megan usually spends $1,000 on office supplies.
Yes.
Maybe I gave her $1,100 this time. You know, just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
assuming.
What he does.
Yeah.
I guessed, absolutely.
Yeah, I get that.
So there's a couple things in here that you will see, except I think, if I'm not mistaken, what you guys normally do is you'll take like, I hope you're using the amended budget and not the original, because you know it changes. Okay. Because I think sometimes, I think it might have
I think we might have went through a whole
before.
budget workshop.
Yeah.
So if you take your amended budget from last year and you compare it to this, is where you're going to get your best comparison, because that amended budget is kind of like what it actually was closer to what transpired. So you'll see a few different things. One being just off the bat, in the general fund 9,000 miscellaneous section. So it's going to start with 109,000. You know what? I should start numbering these pages for you guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's page 3.
So if you come to this, what I call like the catch-all, right? So it's all the things that kind of don't have its own category. You will notice something called it's going to be on the next page. TIF capital improvements.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
What's our
as
TIF fund?
some of you are aware, we have been collecting income tax monies specified for a TIF area. So this is tax incentive financing. And what it is in 2018, we passed an ordinance with Caslo. And this is, I'm sure some of you already know this, but maybe some of you don't. So there's certain areas in downtown and Castle Park that we designated. It's not called an opportunity zone. It's called something else. And in those areas, we decided that we're going to collect specific monies to be spent only there. Okay, so we had to go through a whole thing. The school had to sign off on it and say, yeah, you know.
The school, because they generally get a big share of property tax.
Yep.
Which TIF is based off of property tax at the Aqua building that was built.
Yes, and if they would have had anything else, which we didn't, but anything new next 10 years from there, we also can capture into this TIF money. All right.
It's supposed to, correct? The projection on the TIF is 15 years?
I thought it was
10. Okay.
I have to pull.
But we're supposed to have 350,000 it's supposed to bear over
Well,
the 10 years?
As it's about 18,000 a year.
Okay. So 180 is ours, 180 is Castle's.
So Caslo, up till this point, hadn't been asking to use any of the money, and the city hadn't really had any projects. I mean, what are you going to do with $18,000? Like, so Sarah reached out and said, hey, we might be thinking of wanting to do something, so we thought we'd better budget for it. So I pulled out what we have. This is what we've collected and have on hand. This does not include the monies that will be collected in 2022 for 2021. So this is simply 3 years worth of what we already had in the coffers collected, okay?
I'm not sure I understand. I thought when Castle told us about this, it was supposed to bear, and maybe it was 10 years, but it was 350,000 I thought was the end number.
We can pull those,
And to my understanding, it was basically
Things, but-
50% theirs, 50% ours, the cash.
I will
But-
have to pull the ordinance, I don't know.
Okay.
All I can tell you is what's been remitted to me from the county collected from property tax.
And I'm just
Okay?
curious because I'd like to see the structure of how they're entitled to that money at what times. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
They can't come to us and say, listen,
So
we need our share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
they
actually,
obviously,
they're only entitled to half of this 56,000, correct?
if this is the whole fund, they're only entitled to
that's
half.
all that's in there right
Then
now,
they're only
absolutely.
entitled, they're only
Because I
entitled to
think
half.
you're right, that that's
Yeah.
how that was supposed to work.
Absolutely, because I remember they specifically even noted some of what they planned on doing with the money, which
Do
was
you
painting
recall,
the,
I asked
the
you
bridge
to
down
pull the
there.
ordinance and
those
there is
things,
a,
you know what I mean?
it says
So-
see amend tax.
I just wanna
plan
make
or
sure,
amend-
I'm not
and
trying
there
to
was
cheat
nothing
Castle, I'm not
attached.
trying to
Yeah.
cheat the city.
Yeah.
Whatever it should be is how we should do it.
And I tried to look to see if it was in with the paperwork for when.
But I swear it was
it's
350,000, so I'm hoping that it's, you know what I mean?
I recall the 50%.
So I'm not quite sure who's gonna spend this money or how it's getting spent. Obviously, we need to pull those ordinances and
See
figure
how
that
it's
out,
framed, yeah.
but this is what I have on hand. So I put it in the budget because we couldn't spend any of it if we don't budget for it.
Sure.
So there it is, you know, whatever they're gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna figure out what it is, it's there.
Cool.
On top of that, the mayor is proposing, and that's what's in here, 3% raises for non-classified full-time employees and elected people, okay? Except Joey, and the police chief. Those were the only two positions that she pulled out and asked me to plug in a different figure. I guess that's kind of rude to say Joey. The code enforcement officer's position. So that position is not a percentage, it was a flat amount.
What, do you know the category on that?
Yeah, so that's gonna be the piece underneath SSD, so
Could be a tobacco.
property code enforcer, 1700, it's the second page. So,
General administration.
so
Right,
where
I got
everybody
you.
else was, you know, like I said, 3%, that
Got
was
it.
proposed. I'm gonna write it down, but I don't know how.
So he's up to 35,764.
I think
That's
he should be-
proposed, correct?
Yeah,
This is the amount, the
So
mayor
this
had a
is
conversation with him, and this is the amount he requested.
$3,936.
that's what he requested.
Say that again,
right?
sorry.
$3,936.
And when I spoke with the mayor about it, she said that it was his request
That was
because
his
of his health care.
That's exactly what he contributes for
To
healthcare
healthcare.
right now.
So we'd
what
be
he
picking
asked
up the
for.
health care on it.
But he can't not pay healthcare because you just can't have one person not paying the 20%. So
Yeah.
instead, she gave him the raise exactly what he was paying.
Which honestly, on Joey's part to only ask for that is, I would say, very fair. His position has proved itself, I would say. What would you guys say from dealing with
He
it?
does a fine job.
And-
a lot of the times when you people call me with a complaint, I bring it to Joey, he says, I'm on it already.
Yeah.
And so, I have no complaints about his performance at all.
He does a great job, but I'm looking at this, 35,764, and then you go down here to the custodian payroll, okay? One guy, 31,415,
Where do you, oh, I see it.
right down, it's under buildings and lands, right here. Yeah.
I guess that's a good point.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
A little more responsibility.
Yeah, I would say a lot.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot more responsibility on Joey than what
And
he
Joey's a
has.
full-time employee the same way as a custodian. His responsibilities are a lot more and he drives revenue, so. But it's tough basing somebody's pay off of what they do. They do way more than this person. It's still difficult for us to continue to do that
Can't-
down the.
Two jobs are not comparable, so it's hard to
No.
compare. It's hard to compare their compensation when the jobs aren't comparable.
Right.
You could say that for a lot of jobs.
Well, and you also have to say, should this one make much more, or should this one make much less? It's hard to middle that difference in the job, in the pay, you know what I mean?
Okay, so the only other job that fell into not being a 3% is the police chief. She asked me to plug in a specific specific figure for him, and that figure was $62,400.
Which is what of an increase? I'm sorry, I don't have.
It's, so he was making 58,838.77. If you would have just given the 3% that was given across the board for all others, it would have brought him to $60,603.93. So basically,
He's getting an
it's an
extra,
additional,
oh, less than 2,000.
yes.
What does the other chiefs think about that?
I brought that up too.
I'm not sure.
But I would be a hypocrite because I advocated in the past,
So soon.
these jobs are not the same. And you
No.
can't compare the police chief and the another department head such as the fire chief or the street department or any of the other ones. They're different responsibilities. They command different people. I can tell you that Roddy, when I looked before, when I was chairman of police and fire, I think he has 20 people with dispatchers and part-time under his command, over 20 people, versus street department that's, what is it, about four people. So again, not in comparison of responsibility, I can't disagree with a difference in pay. I mean,
How many full-time dispatch do we have?
like you said,
One?
We have 5, we just had a
Full-time?
new person,
Full-time
New girl.
dispatchers?
Didn't we agree
and a
years
bunch of
ago
part-timers.
that the safety service director is supposed to be more ahead of everybody else because he's more in
I
control of
did.
things? And obviously, we got somebody else
Right.
getting paid a little bit more, Martin.
So for
I
that
would
position,
disagree.
3% was plugged in for
safety service.
safe source.
But still, he's less than the police chief.
Yeah, I to be honest, I hate doing that.
I know, it's, I mean,
You-
we
nobody
discussed
wants
that
to
years
make-
ago on that.
Yes.
Or-
To try to keep it there. But we also did discuss breaking up, because when I came, it was, they wanted all the department heads in a line. They
Right.
made the same amount, they got the same, and I remember arguing my first year that these aren't the same positions, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah,
even though everybody's a department head, the responsibility level was completely different, and they need to be compensated for that, you know? So, it's hard for me to come back now and argue and say, these department heads should all get the same raises. I don't believe that.
What my point is the safety service.
You're right, I don't believe that any of the department heads should make more than safety service director. I agree wholeheartedly. So either
This is
adjust,
my broad-
have to adjust one or the other, you know?
Well, did you have to go at a percentage when you took the job?
No, because you changed the ordinance
It's-
before I
It's
moved.
a lateral move.
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
I took a pay cut when I took street superintendent, but then the ordinance changed, so I didn't have to. when I-
yeah. Well, as long as you're moved laterally in the city, we don't
We never
credit
used
that
to,
anymore,
yeah.
right? We don't take the 85% or
Right.
92%.
We used to.
Yeah.
Just change.
If you left.
Now, if you're a new hire, I agree with it 100%.
Yeah,
But
or
if
if you
you're,
left like a certain time.
Yeah.
back, yeah.
So you're officially retired from the street department?
It's not
Not
retired.
retired, no. I never retired, no.
You never retired?
You
No.
just did a lateral.
I just did a lateral move. If I were retired, then you probably could have brought me back at 85%, but I didn't retire.
yeah. Which we've had people do in the past. Retire from something else and become safety and collect their retirement. You can do that, you know.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
As long as you have your 3-month separation.
Sure. Alright.
So that kind of is all the, like I said, the non-classifieds. The part-time people, like we had some of the seasonal part-time, I think minimum wage was like $9.30 now and they were at $9.25, so we definitely need to change that before they all come back for the season. The mayor felt like, you know, nobody really should be making less than $10 an hour here at the city, even if it is seasonal part-time. So for those few jobs that we do have in the summer seasonal part-time, she would like to raise them to $10 an hour. You also had an instance where you were paying your council security more than our part-time police were making. So she thought that perhaps where that position was making $14.50, we could bump the part-time police up to $15 an hour. Our van drivers, were making like $11. She would like to bring them up to $12 each. They don't work a whole lot of hours, so it's not really going to be a huge hit to the fund. So for each person who has like an actual line item, you know, obviously you're going to see what it is, and I just want council to be aware though that just because I've plugged a figure in for anybody, even a part-timer, say you say, you know what, I don't want to give the van guy $12 an hour, we're going to keep him at $11.25. Fine, the figure we have in there probably still works though, because it's such a small amount of money that I don't think you need to change the aggregate. And just because you're passing that salary doesn't mean they're getting it. We still will have to do the salary ordinance to get anybody any more compensation.
Okay. Question two. The under custodians for the payroll, that is a standard 3% raise?
It was. It came out to $915.02.
Are you okay with all these increases? Do you think our budget can handle it? Or?
I think they could handle it, and to be honest with you, I wanted to give more, but
With the unknowns coming up
yeah,
later in the year.
I'm
it's
like,
not
I
possible.
feel bad. You know, we all know the situation, right? We all know that just an average family in groceries and gas, you took a pay cut, right? Already.
No doubt.
I know healthcare is gonna go up. I know it.
Oh, way to be optimistic.
It's gonna go up. I feel horrible that, you know, my person, just, you know, Michelle, who's thankful to have a job, does a great job, do anything I ask her to do, and it's their choice to be here. I get that. People, you know, if you want to say, I could go work here and slinging burgers, making more, they could go do that.
Absolutely.
And I know that that's an argument too. But it's also so disheartening to be like, we want to keep you, you do a great job, everybody's struggling to keep employees, here we are with some good employees, and we're like, here's,
But we did what we could for
Here's
her.
this,
We did give her a
you know.
substantial raise last year,
so.
correct?
Well, substantial in your eyes, not mine.
Well,
I
mean,
mean, it's hard to get employees because the city pretty much underpays everybody.
listen, it's hard to get employees though anywhere. It don't matter what you're paying them.
My,
I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
like,
You know what I mean?
philosophy was different than yours. When I came to ask for Michelle, I thought, you know, like, we don't want, this isn't gonna be a big hit at once, let's do incrementally, right? And y'all were like, nope, we're gonna give Megan, you know, to her 2% and her $5,000. And I thought, well, hell, if I'd have known that, I would ask for that for Michelle.
The
I was
pro-
trying to be,
The problem
You
was
know.
we understood that everybody was underpaid. And we just thought at that point, and speaking for myself, I thought, if we can make this right now, there are no more, we don't have to worry about big raises in the future. We made it right. Now we can go off of
I feel
a
like you made it
standard of
right
living.
for one employee. And I'm just gonna leave it there. We're not gonna, and that employee deserved it 100%. They all do though. Then when you come to a situation where your employee is gonna make more than a starting cop.
And that's
How
why
you-
but that's why you also know
how
that for
you do
years
that,
and years,
you know?
for a decade here, and it was like this when I first came on, people were the administration was so prudent on raises because they seen that domino effect going down.
You say
And
that.
when you give this person one, you gotta give this person, and then this person's complaining that they do more than this person, and that person makes, it just is a never-ending thing.
When I started here, it didn't matter who you were, what kind of job you did. They set raises 3 years at a time, and it was 222, 222. Every year, no matter what.
I can't say I disagree with it.
That was the, not mayor, but mayor before's, you know.
Yeah.
And then we ran into some tough times, and there was a catastrophic event that happened with healthcare. And that hit everybody, and that hit us hard. And that's where we had to pull the reins back and say, hey, this is, we went from, you know, I'm not exaggerating, $300,000 a year to $1 million. Like,
Yeah.
this is a big deal, and the whole industry, you know, everybody had that issue.
Right.
And we're still recovering from that.
I understand, but that's always my
So-
philosophy too. If we got these rates to where they were deemed industry standard or even close or even acceptable. Let's just say acceptable, right?
I think you're to
Because
the point where they're not gonna run out the door.
there's pros and cons at every job, and
Yeah.
it just seems like when you work for a city, people always focus on the cons and none of the pros.
Sure.
And that's probably any job. I shouldn't even say for a city, but there are pros and cons to working here.
There
are a lot of pros.
And a lot of your staff will say, I'm so thankful to have weekends off. I'm so thankful to have nights off.
Right.
Hey, I have health care, right? Or I get enough sick time that I could actually be sick. You know? Like some places
Yeah.
don't. They go to work
Sure.
sick, they don't have any time. So, you know, a lot of the staff is, at least to me, you know, recognizes that. So
Chrissy, what about the park caretaker? He's at 34,505.79,
that was a 3% raise.
3% raise.
Right.
Gets no overtime up there.
Nope. Doesn't work any overtime.
Oh, he does?
Doesn't work overtime?
I don't think so. It should be
No.
flexing his schedule. It would be
He
illegal.
doesn't work more than 40 hours a week, that's what I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
Should be.
he says he's working about 45 hours a week.
45 to 50 hours a week, and he was told that he had to take off. Is that true?
Yeah. He can't work
He's a
more than 40 hours
he's
a week.
40-hour week.
He will have to
employee.
flex his
Yeah,
schedule then,
right.
for sure. We can't
So
have
he-
him working and not paying him. That's illegal.
Well,
I'm just saying
it's only
because-
illegal because he's not really paid salary. He's paid hourly, correct?
He's
But you're saying
he's
it,
not. He's a
when people are salary
department
employed.
head,
No, I'm not saying.
salaried employee. He's
Okay.
not hourly. So yeah,
I don't.
there's no
But
mechanism for overtime for him.
I understand that, but I'm not arguing for the overtime. What I'm arguing on is if you're a salary employee, your salary's based on
Yeah.
40 hours, right?
Right.
That's how we
Well,
came up with that number.
If
That's
you
all I'm
read our
asking.
ordinances, the ordinance have changed over the years, but I think they said it was based on a 2,080 hour, and
Yeah.
that would be 40 hours a week.
Correct.
for
So
sure.
I'm not, and again, I'm not advocating one or the other. All I'm saying is when somebody's a salary employee,
They
right,
changed that.
and you're
law.
based on that, that's what you get paid. Whether you work 40,
No.
50.
No,
So you're saying it's
they
illegal to
just
work more than
changed
40
that
hours?
law
How is that possible?
2 years ago.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
How the hell is that possible?
So it's illegal to work if you're
I
on
need
salary
to
over 40
renegotiate
hours?
my contract.
The park
Well, if you have
superintendent, he has
a union
flexible hours.
contract now.
He sets his own hours to work 40 hours. If he works 8 hours on a weekend, he doesn't have to come in on a Monday. He has flexible hours.
Yeah, he has
And
a
I've
certain
never-
amount of things
I've
to
never
get
signed a
done.
payroll where he's been over 40 hours. I mean, he's never submitted one where he's been over 40 hours.
No, I understand that. But what you're saying is if we base a salary on 40 hours,
Right.
it's illegal for that person to work 42
Well,
hours.
he could flex it, or say, I'm gonna bank this kind of like an AT and take it off next week, but don't tell me about it, right? Like, you can't turn in 42 hours and me only pay you 40 is what I'm saying.
No, yes, I understand that, but he's only gonna get paid for 40
Right.
regardless.
And I would hope he's not working any hours he's not getting
Right.
paid for. I don't know what he's doing.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
it's kind of
He
salary.
shouldn't be.
Okay.
He does.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
what this figures with the 3% increase.
Yes, he was at 33,500. This gives him about $1,000 increase, so 34,505.79. Is that what I have? You're making me
Yep.
double guess my
That's
figures
it,
here.
yeah.
All right.
My wife used to be a manager at Foot Locker,
Hey.
and her salary was based on 45 hours. And I would say literally half the week she worked 60 hours. It just,
Guess
we
that's
never
it.
see anybody, I mean, we
That's the
never.
perk of working for the city.
Yeah,
Your 40 hours should be 40 hours.
I told her just keep doing it, because I need that half off on shoes.
That's right.
So, but the
Yeah.
street foreman, is that a salary too?
Yes.
He does get authorized overtime
You
and
just
he
changed
gets
that
compensated
ordinance.
for it, right.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. I
has to
remember
be
that.
signed off by the safety service.
Yes.
That's right. I remember that now, you're right.
Who is this?
And generally,
Street foreman.
Our street foreman.
and generally the street foreman, if I
Overtime
do
has-
remember, is usually the last person to get called out in
They,
overtime
they
situation.
come out and they will salt and he won't come out. The only time he comes out is when they determine that they need to plow.
So we are
We
prudent
did
on
that for the
this.
chief and,
Yeah.
for the fire chief
Fire
and the police
chief,
chief.
police chief and,
And Frank,
Right.
didn't we do that for Frank as well?
Frank too.
yes, but honestly, the situations where Frank has to come out, we had the one flooding the one time, but those situations don't come up too
Right,
often.
but we,
Right, we can.
I think the police chiefs don't come up all that often
No.
either. They're emergency
Except
situations.
for that one, that gun, that shooting we had.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean,
Well,
under
those-
normal.
If they happen once a year, it's something, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's not a common occurrence.
Well, again, I've always been an advocate for, if you take a salary job, you make it good or bad, right? Whether you.
You accept that and that's it.
Correct. So I've always been prudent with that, but I was fine with it because when we went off of this, the safety service director has to sign off on it, and it's only emergency situation. It is not for, we needed an extra guy, you come out and get OT. It's not for that, you know?
Now, the only other department head that's getting the overtime, as far as foreman goes, would be our stormwater management. Because of our flooding situations, a couple of incidents have happened where he's had to come out, but that's minimal also.
And then the increase on the demolition went up, Chrissy, I know that, which is good.
Right, and then the code enforcement officer asked me as well to,
Increase it?
well, not just increase it, but if you notice, we kind of changed the name of it. So it's demolition nuisance abatement. Because there are certain situations where he needs to do stuff beyond tearing something down.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
So
like
that-
call somebody in to pick up garbage or
So
something
that
like
we
that?
could
Yeah.
use that fund for just,
Okay.
more than that.
Yep, okay,
That's good.
Okay.
yeah.
Alright, so what do you guys wanna do with a budget workshop? Do you want to do it on committee night?
Wait, not done. I got one more thing.
Okay.
So if you go to, the street department, so it's a 200 account. It's gonna be on page 4. You will see under equipment replacement, a large expenditure. So it's gonna be the third from last line item, equipment replacement.
300,000?
Yep,
Where you
Oh,
guys at? I got equipment replacement at 10,000.
No, you're on the wrong page.
200.
It's next from the last page.
So page 4.
300,000, right?
Yeah. So that, tell me what this is. I have it here. This is a
They're getting a new truck.
2023
Okay.
Same page 4.
freight liner. And maybe Bob can tell you what that is.
We're getting a new salt truck,
Yeah,
okay? And it's unreal how much those prices have gone up just since the last time we bought it. The price has gone up almost $80,000.
Do we have the program like we do for the police vehicles?
Yes,
For-
well, we had a state purchasing price.
Yeah,
on-
okay.
on-
Oh, I see.
on-
So the previous street foreman was a guy that, like, if you gave him the reins, he would just spend money. So I had to keep him on a really tight leash. So in that process, we banked a lot of money in that fund. So we felt that it would be better to just buy it outright than to finance it. In the end, you end up paying a lot more money, and we'd be paying for it with the same money that's sitting in there. So we're just gonna buy it outright. And he needs a couple new tractors.
Our zero turns are 10 years old and getting at the end.
I
of
could
their
have,
life.
listen, you know what you need to spend. I'm never gonna be an advocate for paying the money outright.
You're not?
Absolutely not. We're running 20% inflation. Your money's worth 20% less next year. Why would I pay it with today's money when I could pay it with 5 years from now money that's worth literally 40% less than we have?
They will only go the 3 years, and I'm concerned that if they drop that tax, we're not gonna have the money to pay. And I'd be paying with the same money anyway.
I understand that.
You know, do you know they're talking about kicking that?
Gasoline.
gasoline
tax?
tax
Yeah.
out.
And, and just with the increased prices, people are driving less, so your tax collection will probably drop also.
And to
just
answer
because of
Lori,
consumption.
on most times when inflation's 2%, in most years, doesn't really make much of a difference. But now you're literally talking about losing 15% on your money a year. So that $300,000 literally is we wasted $45,000 to inflation by next year. Now, if you compile that over 3 years, look what you're looking at. We literally, if we are running at that rate of inflation of 15%, we wasted 45 grand.
I don't know what the,
And that's just a
what the
fact of
prices to borrow
inflation.
money are kinda up in
Sure.
the air too.
Well, but the thing is, right now, borrowing money, if you're borrowing money at a 4%, which I'm not saying we are, but if you're borrowing money at a 4%, and you're losing 10% to inflation, 12% to inflation, you're better off kicking it down the road. You're middling 8%, you're middling 10%. And again, when it's 2%, it never matters. When it's
Right.
10-15%, it's a substantial enough amount of money that,
But if we're gonna get cut off,
Yeah.
again, I just don't have a crystal ball.
no doubt, no doubt.
It's not tonight.
Just trying to,
Yeah.
you know, bring up anything that
I
could
mean,
save
if
us.
you guys
Go ahead,
notice,
Ron.
you know,
We'll
we,
get you out there.
every truck you ever got, did I make you not lease to own that? We
Normally, we
financed
don't,
it.
yeah.
Yes, we financed every truck.
Every
This
police
is the
cruiser
first
we
one.
bought, we financed. Any big project, like when we did with the radios and Motorola stuff, we financed. I mean,
Yeah, I
we
get
take
it.
advantage of that a lot.
Sure.
But I was,
They're just saying
I was
like now,
scared this year.
in inflationary times, like best case scenario is you kick the payment down farther and you're paying it back with cheaper money.
I'm just concerned we're gonna end up in a situation where if they cut that gas tax, they're gonna go back to before, I'm gonna have to keep Tom on a shorter lease than I did Bob.
They recently increased the gasoline tax by 6%, 2% a year for so many years. But now they're talking down in Columbus about cutting it 10 cents a gallon. So that will wipe
We'll-
out,
What we've
everything
got,
that
plus,
That's gonna kill us.
it will hurt.
Yep.
so I can't think of anything.
Not only us, it will hurt the state, ODOT, and everything
Yeah.
No
else.
doubt. But that's why it's, you know, when they start taking money for a tax, you're never gonna get out of that ever. Because everybody now operates under that assumption that they're getting that money. When you operated without it for a long time, but now that you get it, you can never go back. That's just the way government works. So, it'll be a substantial hit without that gas tax. But
Well,
3
right-
years ago, we didn't have that.
Right now, our street department, I believe, is running independent of our general fund.
100%.
But
And at
we
this,
lose it, that may not continue.
and if you know, everything's like compared to like what they would have spent last year, maybe it's a $200,000 difference. So that's giving raises, buying this equipment, and they're still gonna have if they don't cut the tax and we get this amount of money we're supposed to get through the end of the year, they'll still end the year with like a $400,000 surplus. So this was a conservative spending for what we have.
I mean, yeah, you
And same thing with the general fund, so, we have about almost a $5.7 million is what, you know, we would have been comfortable spending. You guys know I'm always conservative with that figure, and that's why we have a I know you're always wanting to know, it's 1.183 is the carryover from last year. It's always a big deal about this carryover. So we had $1.1 million carryover is what we added to what I'm guessing we're gonna get in receipts, and that's how I get the $5.7 million to plug in here to be comfortable with budgeting. And I have a reserve, you know, I don't budget at all just in case the bottom falls out.
To be honest, ain't our budget usually more than that?
It's total 13.
Yeah.
I'm talking about general fund,
Okay.
just general fund.
Oh,
So for the general fund, we're at 3.4, so that gives us a $300,000 cushion of if something bad happened, or we would need, you know, to healthcare crew,
So
whatever.
usually,
We're gonna have
what about you run is like a 7 or 8% contingency?
I like to do 10%, but I'm comfortable with this. And for each category, you know, the budget is based off the receipts, and that's how we have to do it. Like, I can never budget more than what I'm gonna certify to the county we're gonna receive, right? So you kind of have to stay within those confines. And I did only budget for the ARPA money that I have on hand. Even though I'm gonna guess that we're going to get the other half this year. I'm not quite sure how much it's gonna be, because now we got another thing saying, hey, we're gonna take a little bit more of your money and give it to townships and villages, because you are under 50,000 people in population. So an amount of money was, I guess for lack of a better term, promised to communities. Like our community told we were gonna get $1.9 million. And then when it actually got pushed out, they said, if you were a community that was under 50,000 people, we're going to reallocate your money. And they did. And they come back and they said, you're probably going to get closer to 1.2. And then I just got something else, and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was just like maybe a couple thousand. But it's still kind of like unknown as to what we will get and when we will get it. So what you see on your budget is what I have now in the bank from them. And as you know, you've already passed 2 ordinances to cover some overages from the fire plant station and the new truck that we ordered. So basically, this money's spent in those 2 purchases, and we'll need the other money that's coming in to cover the rest of it. Other than that, if you come across something that you have a question about, feel free to reach out to me, call me, text me,
And compare it to the amended budget.
Okay, so
Where am I-
make
don't
sure you compare it to the
the-
proposed budget,
Don't
right?
prepare it
They
to the
both
other-
say proposed, to just go against the proposed.
So the total budget is 13.5 million. But a lot of that's, you can't really, we could've had a project, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
but that's-
I have to budget for monies that come in and go out.
That's still up. It's still up. I think last year's was 12 million.
So you'll see, like, when we're done with the dam stuff, we didn't see any of that money, right? I
Yeah.
didn't actually get it or expend it,
Yeah.
but I'll have to put it in the budget
Right.
because it was money
$2
on our
million.
behalf, spent on our behalf.
What, right? 1.6 million?
I think it ended up, we had to go find more money to finish that, didn't we?
For,
The dam, all in all.
Yeah, I did.
There's no figure here on the dam.
No, there's not,
Okay.
because I don't have that. So, it'll be in the amended budget at the end of the year, and if we have to, we might have to come back and do something else. Another budget, I don't know, this is gonna be a difficult year.
Play it by ear.
Good job.
So we'll see.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Yep.
Yep.
You did put that big, huge raise in there for council, though?
I did,
Okay, perfect.
3%.
Okay,
And
anybody?
I will say this too. There is some money in there, right? So I just told you I left a cushion. There's some money. Council goes through this and they're like, you know what? There's no money for XYZ. We want to see that. You have until you take it out of committee next to do whatever you need to do. So just give me some time to plug it in. Unlike the last time.
For everybody here, it's a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
You don't come for the compensation.
Yeah.
Dallas, when are you doing the budget workshop?
What do you guys want to do next week?
Are we usually-
Come an hour early?
Yeah.
Next week is caucus.
Next week is council.
I mean,
Do you want to do, do we have time for the following?
This has to be passed when, the end of March?
You don't have any more meetings next Wednesday, is it? Unless you have a special meeting.
What do you guys want to do, come early next week?
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock next week.
5 o'clock?
I could be here at 5:20.
Okay, you care if we start at 5 and then any
Yeah.
questions go after?
Yes, I care.
All right, well then 5:20 it is.
No,
I
5
know,
o'clock
I'm
is
just
fine.
kidding.
I'm 5
You don't want to
o'clock.
have a special meeting?
We can, I think usually we just go before caucus, don't we?
I'm
Just
just-
the Monty Park last year.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to do that again? That'd be easier for everyone, don't matter to
As
me.
long as Bob's not working over.
I talked to him, I don't feel we should be
Go to
working
Mount.
overtime.
Yeah.
I gotta stress to him, don't commit that
Last
much
time
to
we
the job.
couldn't 'cause of
You
COVID.
take
Yeah,
work,
COVID.
take your time off that
All right,
you're
that's-
entitled to.
What do you want to do?
I'll do 5 o'clock next Wednesday.
5 o'clock next Wednesday?
And like I said, if you
I
would
work
please
till
call
5,
me.
but I'll be here.
Or call the mayor,
Soon as you can.
Kathy and I,
Okay.
she had a
Maybe
great
in
thing
my
she couldn't
scrubs.
get out of. But I mean, we
The
worked
only
closely
hard
with
time
her. So call
is
Kathy, call
because
me,
next
we'll
week is a
answer
council
anything you
meeting.
have.
So we'll only have allotted
We'll
time.
have an hour.
If we do it on a caucus night, we could have spent 3 hours, it wouldn't
Yeah.
matter, but next week, we're gonna have to be done by 6:15.
Yeah, so look it over at home and see
Yeah.
what you think.
And if you have any questions, call Chrissy.
Yeah. We got a lot out tonight too, so.
And I think you guys have been through this so many, some of you were new and but you've been through this enough time where I think it never really changes, so a lot of the questions, I think you
Yeah, so
already know.
redundant.
A lot of the questions you can answer yourself too, as you look at it with
And
healthcare,
also-
with, you know.
I just wanna reiterate, you see, like with the salaries specifically, this is not giving anybody any money. So maybe you're like, I don't know, but I'm gonna hold this whole budget over this.
Well, it's,
You know that
you are
when you-
giving 3%, but it's,
But you have to approve that
But you
separately.
still have to pass the salary.
Yes.
So you could say yes here, and then you could be like, hey,
Yeah,
you
we-
changed your mind.
right. And we usually
So-
do salary ordinance when, in April?
It's
As soon
the
as you
first-
guys
the
pass
first
this, me
meeting
and
in
Megan
April
will
is
start-
usually-
Oh, yeah, I'll start working.
Start with those.
Okay.
And when, hospitalization, when is that?
So it'll change July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna assume that probably first week in April, we're gonna start that process.
So can I ask you, okay, so our healthcare this year, whatever, did it go from January to January for deductibles and
Yes,
stuff? How did that?
so, yeah,
So
was it
that's
even more
bad.
confusing?
Yeah,
So it
isn't
was
that-
January to December for deductible year, but plan year was the, yeah.
Do we have the
January
same company? There's a different company now?
What would have been nice is
Yeah, but like
if
billing
we
that
could
on
get a
deductibles.
6-month filler, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they do that, and then go back, or another 18-month plan.
Yeah,
I'd
one
like
of the
to
two,
see
right?
that.
Right.
Cause this is, it's definitely difficult.
Right.
Are they, do they offer an 18-month plan or you don't know?
Maybe, they might, yeah, we got one, that's how we got in this mess in the first place.
Yeah.
This is informal.
Yeah, that's confusing. Maybe we were iterating if they are.
Some carrots.
That's what I wanna put down.
Yeah.
I'll have to have that budget done that night.
He's skinny and dark.
I'll have to have that-
I was like,
Yeah, I'll have to have that budget, like, once you guys have your workshop, I'm gonna have to sit there and like, get the budget ready.
That's all it takes.
so if you decide not to have a workshop and you, amongst you, talked about something and you're like, hey, we wanna see something, the piece of legislation that is physically brought out right before the meeting, you know, we'll have to, I don't know, maybe whiten it out and putting stuff in, so like we'll need to know as she's getting her
If we end
agenda
up
out.
changing the budget from the piece of legislation, we could probably pencil that in and then you could type it up later.
It's
Could
gotta
we- could
be
we-
whatever
Whatever
Beasley
he's
says,
bringing
I'm
out.
taking this out, whatever
It
it
has
says,
to be
it has
on
to
that,
be
it
that.
has to be on
Yeah,
that.
but we could, I mean,
But I'll have to have it ready for you guys that evening to pass. I'll have to type
even
it.
if we just have it written out like that, I mean, would you need to type it out right away or?
The biggest mouths usually
Yes.
have.
When you're bringing it out, that means you're voting on a piece of legislation that's ready to go.
Yeah.
You,
I think that was a compliment.
yeah. So I'll have to do it that night. Just saying.
Okay. Are we
So,
good?
so you don't have an hour and a half, you have an hour, and you gotta
Yes.
give her half an hour.
Okay.
And Jimmy and Lori are gonna be a little late. So we're gonna have a 25 minutes, make something happen.
Just look it over.
Yeah.
So I'll send it to you, you can put it in however
I'll
you do
put
it.
it over, and then I can just jive the
Actually, by the
numbers.
time we boil this down, we got about 8 minutes.
So you can hit
Go
print
over
and you're
this.
done.
Well, it will be a no BS meeting.
Yeah.
What day is it?
I'll try to keep quiet.
Not unless you guys wanna do it on a Monday and you guys have a budget
To
workshop.
tell you the truth, it's never been any major changes to the
No.
budget.
No, but I'm just saying.
Never,
just throw it out.
since I've been here, I've never seen something drastically
Yeah.
change.
No.
I mean, I trust her and how she figures it out.
Yeah.
That's what she was
Well, we're in the
elected
black,
to
so we're
do,
good.
that's what she does, she does a great
It's
job,
next
so.
Wednesday,
so.
what's the council?
Yeah, she's all right.
Even though she puts out a lot of statistical data.
That's right, she has a lot of that.
No, good job, Chrissy.
You know,
23rd?
my predecessor used to sit here and give an actual report,
I thought
right?
you were just here since the beginning of time.
I was. Where she would be like, general fund was this and it's this much difference than this. And then this fund is this and this much, and that's a lot of it's like, if you guys wanted me to do that for you, I certainly can.
Oh, my first 2 years, I think I highlighted every single difference. And I would come and ask you, and it was like the most simplest answers in the world. But do you remember my first year coming to your office to go over the budget?
I feel like I'm starting to feel marginalized. I wish you people would come ask me questions, because you're like, you know too much. I'm like, I don't need you anymore. Nobody comes to ask me nothing.
Oh, my first year I remember sitting in your office for like 2 hours going over the budget, 3 hours. I didn't know nothing, not a thing. All right, ready?
Yes.
Call for adjournment,
Make a motion to adjourn.
second?
I'll second.